Such a character. Yeah. His short
I hereby call the City of Westminster to a council meeting of Monday, September 14th, 2020 to order. At this time, we take a silent moment of personal reflection. As a reminder, all members of council are obligated to declare a conflict of interest or a pecuniary interest as per section 133 of the Westminster Charter regarding any item on this agenda. Council Forrest.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to declare for 8.4.1 as it relates to a company that I consult with, at least the consulting engineer would be. Thank you.
Thank you. No others moved, so we'll move on to item number 2 on the agenda, additions or deletions. Yours? Item number 3 is the approval of the agenda. I will look for direction from council regarding the approval of the agenda presented. Council Buckingham.
Move the agenda dated September 14th, 2020 be approved.
Thank you. I'm looking for a second. Council Fagin. Any further discussion to the agenda? Not seeing any, I'll call for the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Moving on to item number 4, approval of the previous meeting minutes. I'll look for direction of council. Council Buckingham.
Move that the regular council minutes dated August 17th, 2020 be approved.
Councilor Secretary. Thank you. Councilor Torson. Any further discussion on those minutes? Not seeing it, I'll call for the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Moving on to item number 5, is there any business arising from those minutes that need to be dealt with at this time? Not seeing any. Item number 6 is public presentations and acknowledgements. I don't believe there's any public presentations at this time, Mr. Clerk. Public hearing. Public hearing, okay, thank you. Public hearing item number 7 is scheduled for 2 o'clock hour, so we'll return to item number 7. We'll move on to item number 8, new business, to City Manager. To you.
Good afternoon, Your Worship and Council. To present 8.2.1, 2020 ATCO franchise agreement fees. I'll ask the City Clerk to Rodwell to present.
Thank you, Your Worship. The matter you have before you is the 2020 ATCO franchise agreement fee. And the recommendation of the council maintain the current ATCO electric franchise agreement and ATCO gas franchise agreement fees for 2021. The current franchise agreements allow for council to make an annual adjustment to the franchise fees. The current franchise agreements with ATCO electric and ATCO gas have been in place since May 14th, 2018. As the agreements allow the council to make for an annual adjustment to the franchise fees, administration is looking for guidance on the fee adjustments. If any changes are requested by council, ATCO will guide administration through the regulatory process, which generally requires a council resolution to change the rate and by how much, a public notice in the local newspaper of the percentage change as well as the effect of the proposed change for the average consumer. The residents have 45 days to object to the municipality, to which the municipality must respond to. Prior to November 1st, the municipality must submit a letter to ATCO of the fee changes, including documentation of the notice and any objections. ATCO applies to the Alberta Utility Commission, the AUC, to change the rate, and the AUC must approve the rate change prior to it taking effect. The ATCO electric franchise fee is currently 11%. The ATCO gas franchise fee is currently 25%. The option before council is to maintain the current ATCO electric franchise agreement and the ATCO gas franchise agreement fees for 2021. The council requests that ATCO electric franchise agreement and the ATCO gas franchise agreement fees for 2021 be amended. But the council requests further information. This item is aligned with the following strategic areas in the sustainable fiscal strategy. Annual review of the current franchise fees ensures the city is being fiscally responsible. The budget implications for this is if any adjustment to the franchise fees will affect or impact the budget, the impact depending on if it is increased or decreased. In 2021, the municipality is projected to receive approximately $3,213,430 from ATCO Electric and $2,419,631 from the ATCO Gas. A 1% change in the ATCO Electric franchise fee is approximately $292,130, and a 1% change in the ATCO Gas franchise fee is approximately $96,785. And back to you, Your Worship.
Thank you, City Clerk. Questions or comments? Councilor Patrick.
Thanks, Worship. I guess this wouldn't be the time that I would recommend us raising or looking to increase the rates that are coming to us. And I at this point would suggest that we stay the course we're at.
And that's administration's recommendation.
Any other comments? I agree with Councilor very much. I think that's even on the heads of the councilors around the table. Well, but certainly this is the last time I think we want to be raising because there's challenges that we know that always come above us from above. So we can see what those challenges are. Councilor Torres.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just had one general question on the way that the agreement works as far as residents and businesses that were able to have a deferment during COVID, meaning that they likely didn't pay those franchise fees over that period. Do we know that whether or not the city will be affected by any kind of those deferments that happen during the year, or whether it will be made whole by the end of the year either way, or whether it never changed anything for us to begin with?
We were not informed of any effect on the city from ATCO at that point, and we did make an inquiry early on in the COVID situation around their consumptions. We were looking at our facility and so forth, and at that time their consumptions hadn't been deeply affected by COVID. So at that point we were expecting everything to remain as what we were expecting to get. So okay. The other part I would add to this is we have done review of other municipalities in the past, and we are in the range of what others are charging on both the power and gas side.
Thank you, City Manager.
Thank you. And then just one other question. We renewed the agreement in 2018. How often does the larger agreement come for renewal? Because I understand that we can annually change the fee, but how often do we actually change the agreement itself?
We'd have to get that information for you. I thought it sounded like 12, I think it's 12 years at the time.
Something sounds about right.
The franchise renewals, generally it's in that 10 to 15, it used to be every 10 years, and now they gave, I think when we made the last time, they gave you options up to, I think it was 20 or 25 years, but I want to say we're in that 12 range, and we lined it up with our, I believe we lined it up with our election cycle at that time so that a new council wouldn't have that on their plate right off the bat, but the council would do that. So I think that's, we're calling back to 2018, but I'm pretty sure we can get that information for you, but I'm pretty sure we're 12 years.
Yeah, I likely could look back and find the agenda where we did it too. It just came to me right now, so thank you.
Any further questions? Now, seeing none, I'll look for direction from council on 8.2.1, 2020 ATCO franchise agreement fee. Councilor Bylaw.
That council maintain the current ATCO Electric franchise agreement and ATCO Gas franchise agreement fees for 2021.
Thank you. Looking for a seconder. Councilor Torres. Any further discussion before I call for the question? Not seeing any. All in favor? Opposed? Moving on to agenda item 8.2.2.
Thank you, Worship. For 8.2.2, 2020 meeting schedule amendment. I'll ask the city clerk, Doug Rothwell, to present.
Thank you, Your Worship. The matter before you is the 2020 meeting schedule amendment. And the recommendation is that council add a governance and priority committee meeting on Thursday, October 1st, 2020, commencing at 9 a.m. to review the draft 2021 budget. To amend the meeting schedule and add governance of priority meeting as the issue, and the administration is recommending that a governance of priority meeting be added on the October 1st, 2020 to review the draft 2021 budget. The addition of this meeting provides council and the public with the opportunity to review the first draft of the 2021 operational and capital budgets prior to the election. The budget will be brought forward again following the election for review and final decision. The options are the council add a governance priority meeting on Thursday, October 1st, 2020. But the council not approve the proposed amendment of the 2020 meeting schedule, but the council request further information. This item is in line with the following strategic areas for open and responsive government by reviewing the first draft of the budget in a public meeting. Procedure bylaw allows council to amend the meeting schedule by resolution. That's the motion.
Thank you, City Clerk. Any questions or comments? Councilor.
Just a quick question, Richard. Do we anticipate this going a full day or half day, or what do we see?
Guess it depends on how many questions.
We should be motivated coming in and...
You know, we booked a full day, but we anticipate, you know, if all goes well, we could be done by 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock.
Okay, thanks. That's enough.
Any other questions or comments? Councilor Torson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a comment, just generally, I know when I first kind of that we may be doing this, I wasn't totally sure about the full day, if we were doing kind of a similar line by line to some of the things we've seen in the past where you get down in the weeds, but I think that this is actually going to be, you know, doing that full day in the public setting will be good for transparency, and especially with an election coming, you don't necessarily, anyone who is thinking about running can have the opportunity to go through and see what some of the financial issues are and really pay attention to see, all right, this is what I'm going to have to make a decision on if I do win soon after the election, because it needs to be approved prior to the end of the year. So, or at least an interim budget needs to be approved by then. So I think it's important that we go through the entire thing in detail in a public setting, so that it gives a fair opportunity to everyone to be able to see what's going on and also to prepare them for what's going to follow. So I think it's a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. I think that the budget process is a process that this council's going through now. This will be our 4th budget. It's certainly starting the process to set items that will come out to the taxpayer at the end of the day, what services they're looking for, what capital works the city is proposing for the administrative team to ensure that we have all the adequate things that make our city a great place to live. So it'll be interesting to see. I know administration has worked very hard and diligent. They spent a week going through budgets that were presented and went through a great process. Appreciate the work they've done to start with, bring it to a point that it's reasonable to bring to council, and then we will have the tough job of moving it forward from that point on. Any further comments? Councilor Bylaw.
Thanks, Your Worship. Yeah, it's a election year notwithstanding. It's a good process to go through for the transparency piece and the public engagement, which brings me to my question. The public engagement survey that was done to help align the budget, will some of those results be a part of that day as well from what was gathered?
Yes, that would be the intent. I was just looking to make sure the time lines up, and I believe it does. So Bill will bring a summary of those comments, and administration has an idea what some of those are before, so we even try to include those ahead of time if we can. But it is important for you guys to see that information. So.
Thank you, City Manager. With that, I'll look for direction from council on 8.2.2, the 2020 meeting schedule amendment. Councilor Bylaw.
Thank you, Your Worship. I move the council add a governance and priorities committee meeting on Thursday, October 1st, 2020, commencing at 9 a.m. to review the draft 2021 budget.
Thank you. Councilor Fagin, second. Thank you very much. Any further discussion before I call for the question? Not seeing any. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Now to the city clerk before we move forward.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Just to respond to that last question about the terms, the gas is a 12-year term and the electric is a 10-year term on their emissions.
Thank you, city clerk, for providing that. Moving on to agenda item 8.3, to approve the city manager to chief financial officer.
Yeah, for 3.1 capital infrastructure municipal stimulus program application request, I'll ask Jacqueline Schwartz to come forward and present.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Council. On July 28, 2020, the Government of Alberta announced the Municipal Stimulus Program, a $500 million funding commitment to municipalities for capital infrastructure projects to help boost the economy in the wake of the ongoing pandemic. We're requesting that Council approve administration to apply for MSP funding with the 44th Street Rehabilitation, 62nd Avenue to 75th Avenue project, which upon review by administration was identified as the priority project eligible under the program with the highest likelihood of securing funding. The City of Westminster's per capita allocation under MSP is approximately $2.35 million. To secure this allocation, the City must apply with an eligible project by October 1st, 2020. The total estimated project cost of the 44th Street Rehabilitation Project is $4.31 million and encompasses the reconstruction of Highway 16 between 62nd and 75th Avenues. To cover the remaining costs of the project, we ask Council direct administration to request the additional $1.95 million in the 2021 capital budget. As a part of the MSP funding requirements, the City will be obliged to submit annual financial and red tape reduction reporting. Additionally, the City must expend our allocation on the approved project by December 31st, 2021, or return the unspent funds to the Government of Alberta. At this time, I would like to invite any questions.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Councilor Torson.
Thank you, Your Worship. So is any part of this project already kind of ready to go? Is it designed already?
Thank you for your question, Councilor. I believe a portion of the project is in design, but I would actually direct you to James and his expertise for this
Thank you.
question.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. To answer your question, Councilor Torsen, yes, the 44th Street project between 62nd Avenue and 75th Avenue has been designed, and the numbers we are using as part of our grant come from those designs. They are quite close, but yes, we do have a design for that section.
Okay, and then, so, do you know who did the design for this project?
Yes, it was a previous employer of yours.
Okay, but just to be clear then, this decision does not allocate any work towards them?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
This just closes the loop, seeking approval to submit for funding on this project. We will still follow procurement policy to select a engineering consultant as well as a construction contractor.
Thank you. Yeah, I just got nervous for a second there, but we're good.
Councilor Denishek.
Thanks, Your Worship. I guess the other question I have in the back of my head is that construction timeline aligning itself along for completion along with when the grant has to be completed as well. And if we have a lot of rain, I'm just worried about what impact that might have on our grant.
Yep. That's a great question, as it is a significant construction project between 62nd and 75th. Within that, there are three different methodologies that we are going to employ. The first would be between 62nd and 66th, which is a complete reconstruction. Between 66th and 70th Avenue, we would be blading off the asphalt and then completing a subgrade prep and then paving an overlay on top of that. And then between 70th and 75th would be just an overlay. So our major construction would be between 62nd and 66th, so 4 blocks, and then the rest can be completed within inclement weather. So we are anticipating that we could get this completed in its entirety in 2021.
So, and that will have that concrete sections for the stoppage area prior to the lights?
So we will be installing our concrete blocks at the intersection of 62nd and 44th Street as part of our meat funding. The rest of the intersections will not get the concrete blocks if they do not have them already.
Okay.
Councillor Morrison.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, just to be clear, so is this the intersection or is this the roadway west?
This would be the roadway. So
Okay.
this would
Yeah, I think
connect
that's
with
fair.
our funding project at the actual
Right,
intersection.
so we've already allocated that for that project.
That was part of the Saskatchewan funding that I mentioned earlier on, and we requested approval for that submission. This is the other grant portion that we're allocating today, which is past that portion all the way to 75th.
So just a general question, I know we had some issues with the intersection, let's say, because it was in pretty rough shape this spring and parts of the summer, and then there was just a repair done, like a kind of a temporary repair, knowing that there's a permanent one coming. Is there any other sections of this road where we may have to do that? Will it be able to handle one-way traffic for that period?
Great question again. In speaking with Transportation Services, they are completing some temporary roadway improvements, and that would be directly west of the intersection for westbound traffic. And that is just to get that section through the winter into construction so that we can actually get there.
And this question may be for the grants coordinator. So if we approve the allocation at this time, would that give us the ability to fund those temporary repairs to be able to do construction, or would it not?
My guess is no, it would have to be part of the project, but because we're significantly on both projects over expending the grant amount,
Right. It won't make a difference.
it won't make a difference anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
There's not a requirement for a matching portion or a city's contribution. All we had to do was expend the funds in both cases that they allocated. So I can't remember the Saskatchewan on 1.7 million, this was 2.3, and in both cases we were significantly over, so we're more than have enough expenditures to cover both grants.
Councillor McNair.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thanks, James. So with the intersection repair, concurrently with doing this at the same time, or how are we planning on moving that project forward? Are we starting first with that intersection repair and carrying out, or how does that look?
We would look to complete them at the same time. With the intersection construction, as we are going to concrete blocks, we have to have one side of the intersection, either north side or south side, completely shut down until we can flip traffic to that side. So that's concrete curing time, underground construction time, and just general construction. So we will already have traffic flipped onto either the north side or the south side of 44th Street. We would look to complete all repairs on either the north side and the south side at the same time, block traffic, and complete the process again on the other side of the road.
Yeah, so when you start with that intersection, you're going to go 62 to 66 north or south side of the road, do that whole thing. And have the traffic shut down, then flip it to the other side.
Yes.
Do the same thing there.
Yeah.
Okay, good, thanks.
Councillor Sorensen.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is my last comment, I suppose, is that, you know, as far as projects go, I think the one that administration is recommending is a really good project, and the reason I like it is because, you know, looking at 44th Street or Highway 16, I look at that as very much a provincial federal road, which I get that it's not funded that way within the city, but when we get an opportunity to allocate funds where, in a way, the provinces are paying for it, and it's not, you know, city taxpayers wear and tear on that road, and we're getting the ability to, you know, really beef it up and get it to a higher standard, and using provincial money to do it, I think, to me, is an ideal scenario. Because if we were doing that all with taxpayer-funded dollars from, like, the local city of Lloydminster, it almost doesn't seem fair. But getting them to cover a portion, I think, helps in the fairness for me.
We will take it. We will take it. I think the Councillor Fagan.
I was just going to agree with that on that. I think anytime you're working with 50 cent dollars, it's very important, and that's certainly a key roadway, and it needed to be done. So it's nice that we're able to do it that we were shovel ready, and that you selected that one because it makes total sense. It's going to be a little bit of an inconvenience throughout the construction, but hey, people will adapt. So, no, that's great.
It will be just a little bit of an inconvenience if we take out X number of blocks of 16 highway, but we will get through it. I'm sure that my biggest concern is always the access to our North Industrial Park, because that's where a lot of traffic turns from 62nd. So I'm sure that the traffic plan will be very extensive that we put together by our team and the contractor and safety to ensure that, again, it's done safely, because at the end of the day, we want the work done and we have no choice. We just can't, and we can't stop commerce, which we don't want, anything more intensive, trying to put that together. So, thank you, James, for clarifying that there are two projects. One's already been approved. This will just be an extension to that project. And what I'm hearing is the coordination that will happen. There's going to be an immense amount of work by our engineering team to ensure that all the contractors, because you could have multiple contractors and subcontractors working on this, to ensure that the flow is steady and work proceeds, because I know that's always a challenge. We have weather, we have people that have to have lives, we do have some time off. We can't have people work 24 hours a day on road construction. It's not safe either. So appreciate you bringing that forward. Any other questions? Councilor?
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. Sorry, one more. We're doing a lot of underground utility work at that intersection at the same time. With this new 62 to 66 example, is there any more underground infrastructure that's being dealt with further out that needs to be dealt with while we're doing that anyway? Or is that all good past there? Because we did do a bunch of that in the last number of years.
So as part of our design review and actual tendering, we will be assessing the existing municipal infrastructure between 62nd and 75th to see what needs to be done. Catch basin lead repairs, we will look at water main break history, sanitary backups, that history, to see what spot repairs and rehabilitation we need to do. The reason why we are mandating it to be done under the intersection project is given the life cycle of the concrete blocks and the integrity of those concrete blocks. We don't want to cut into them. So that's why we want to get the underground on the same life cycle as the concrete blocks. Whereas the asphalt repairs that we're proposing now, we can handle those on basically on a routine basis. But we are now anticipating major underground replacements as part of this program.
Yeah, but just thinking as people are wondering, it's going to be a lot when that intersection gets closed down. It's going to be a significant amount of work, not just an overlay and an asphalt tear. So, and that's, again, we're mixing up the two separate projects here, but just as we get to that point for next May, there's going to be some significant time on that road.
Absolutely, yeah, for both programs.
Yeah.
And our engineering services team are more than capable of helping that along our design and construction consultants. We put that task on them rather than on the contractor for traffic accommodation and business access to keep it as high as possible.
I'm not sure if Jacqueline needs to answer this, or yourself, James, or even the city manager. Based on what we've seen from government of Alberta, is there any question that this project would not be eligible for funding?
Thank you for your question, Mayor. I do not believe so. The province of Alberta has stated as long as we can identify that this project meets the program objectives, we should be able to.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Any other questions? Not seeing any, I will look for direction from council on 8.3.1, the capital infrastructure municipal stimulus program application request. Councilor Buckingham.
Thank you, Worship. I move the Council direct administration to submit the application for the municipal stimulus program funding in the amount of $2,355,183 towards the 44th Street Rehabilitation, 62nd Ave to 75th Ave project. In addition, the Council direct administration to request the additional $1,954,076 required to complete the 44th Street Rehabilitation, 62nd Ave to 75th Ave project in the 2021 capital budget.
Thank you. Seconder. Councilor Diachuk. Thank you very much. Any further discussion? I just want to mention, I hate committing the next council to spending money, but as we just talked about, a 50-cent dollar, we need to keep this project moving, because we can't leave it till the springtime or until December, get the engineering work done and come up short, and then, oh, we didn't finish it, we need grant money. I'm just frustrated. I think every member of council, I was sitting around this table as well as several taxpayers in the East. Just wanted to add that. Any further comments? Not seeing any. I'll call for the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much, James and Jackie.
Thank you.
We have reached the 2 o'clock hour. So we will move to the agenda back to public hearings. Public hearings number 7. Public hearing September 14th, 2020. Bylaw 26-2020, the Browne Municipal Development Plan Amendment. I would like to note before we begin that during the public hearing, we ask that you respect the views of everyone here and allow each person their time to speak without interruption. Each person wishing to speak has up to 5 minutes to make a presentation to council. All discussions, council members, city staff, and delegations shall be directed to the chairperson. Any questions brought forward by the public which are not able to be addressed during the meeting will be done so at the next council meeting. Council will not debate this matter during this hearing, and the decision regarding whether to grant the bylaw further readings will be dealt with following the public hearing. I declare the public hearing for bylaw number 26-2020, the Browne Municipal Development Plan Amendment, open at 2:02 p.m. I would ask the city clerk to confirm whether this public hearing has been advertised in accordance with the applicable legislation and to summarize the purpose of this hearing.
I confirm that this public hearing has been advertised and notice has been provided in accordance with the applicable legislation. This public hearing was advertised in the Meridian Source on August 27th, September 3rd, and September 10th, 2020. The purpose of this public hearing is for bylaw number 26-2020, a bylaw to amend the municipal development plan pertaining to the use of lands located within the Browne site.
I will now call upon anyone wishing to speak who is opposed to the proposed bylaw. I will now call upon anyone wishing to speak in favor of the proposed bylaw.
Your worship, we have a written submission.
All right, City Clerk.
Written submission is from, I will read it, it's from Mr. Ben Harrison. And it says, Dear Mayor, Elders, and Council, I am writing in support of the draft bylaws 26-2020 and 27-2020. For draft bylaw 26-2020 and the change in land use from institutional to parks, open space, and trails and residential. It is my position that this neighborhood will benefit from more parkland and more residential development. Therefore, I support draft bylaw 27-2020, Browne Area Redevelopment Plan. I'd like to applaud the inclusion of community garden plots in the plan, as well as the increased safety features at pedestrian street crossings, which align with the city's focus on Vision Zero. I believe that there is value in considering medium residential zoning for properties to be created along 56th Avenue. This additional housing will allow for more people to enjoy living in the vicinity of the park and its amenities. I believe that strong neighborhoods are ones that incrementally change over time, and my perspective is that these zoning changes and area redevelopment plan will allow for that kind of change to occur. Sincerely, Ben Harrison.
Thank you, City Clerk. I will now call upon anyone else wishing to speak who is affected by the proposed bylaw. I would ask that you come forward to please introduce yourself and state whether or not you are in favor, opposed, or affected by the proposed bylaw. You will have 5 minutes to make your presentation to council. When you're finished speaking, please remain at the front so as council may wish to ask you questions.
Hello, Mr. Mayor.
Hello.
Council. My name is Susan Dow. I live at 4802 57th Avenue, directly across from the outdoor pool, so I'm affected. The new road that was built linking 56th Avenue to 57th Avenue via the parking lot of the Archie outdoor pool ends right in my front yard. So my family and those of my close neighbors are not only our quality of life, but our property values have been and will continue to be affected by the decisions made. I would like to point out, when looking at the letters submitted, and I'm not sure of this, in the newspaper notification of council meeting, or of the public hearing, if it was noted that if you're unable to attend public hearing, that you can submit a letter. I don't know if that was included. I would encourage you to include that next time. I know many of my neighbors did not know that was an option when they're working today. And I know they were some of the people that did the survey, and as you can see from the survey responses, of the 17 people, 26 responses, 17 people that commented, 13 of those were opposed to the residential development. For those of you who have talked to me in the past or have read emails that I've sent, you will know that although I am very excited about some of the recreational improvements that are included in this plan, I am adamantly opposed to the residential, especially in this current market that we're experiencing. I feel that green space is so very important in cities, especially as they grow and spread. And in an area such as ours that has been established for decades, as you know, once that green space is sold and built on, it will never be recovered. You did a survey that showed in our neighborhood 30% of the residents are between the ages of 25 and 35, which of course translates to young children. And I believe that green space, although I know it creates revenue for the city, and I understand that, I do believe that the use of that green space for our children and our families is extremely important as well. I did have a concern when looking through the plan policies. I spoke with Mr. Browne about this before the meeting. My concern is the Municipal Government Act allows council to redesignate and sell all or a portion of the land designated as a municipal reserve, subject to satisfying the public notice requirements, including holding a public hearing. Following the public hearing, council may lease, sell, or dispose of the public reserve lands as they see fit, with the proceeds of the disposition having to be used exclusively for purchasing additional municipal reserve land elsewhere, or for investment in improving the existing municipal reserve lands. My concern, and what I didn't know, was if that could be done without revisiting this process. If this public hearing that it discusses in this clause, this would be that public hearing. Mr. Robin assures me that that's not the case. And that if anything was to change other than the proposed, I should go back a step and say that although I'm adamantly opposed to the residential development, I do appreciate the fact that if council is set on creating residential development here, we do appreciate the fact that it's been limited to the east side, the small section of the east side where the school once sat. I do appreciate that it leaves the bulk of the land open for parks, green space, and trails. Again, I revisit the clause, what I wasn't sure of is if the plan was to change from what's been presented there, if this process would start again. If the answer is yes, that it would have to start all over again, that gives me some comfort there, I guess, in knowing. My concern was that part of the land that's been designated as parks, trails, green space could change without the community realizing that it's been changing, or that it is going to change. I would make one other comment. I know, and again, I appreciate this. I was in touch with Anthony when the rezoning first started, and he and gave a couple of suggestions to do with crosswalk that was proposed to go right in front of my house as well, and I said, I expressed my opinion on that, and I see some of those things have been changed, but I would just comment also on the sidewalk that's proposed in phase 1 that runs along outside of the fence line, along the north side of the schoolyard on 57th Avenue. That if you're looking at budgetary parts of this plan, I would honestly suggest that that be left to phase 2. I think the amount that that's going to cost you to do would not be, very few people walk there. The only reason why you walk there is if you're going into the schoolyard. If people are out walking on the streets, they walk on our side of the street. Again, I say that sidewalk will not get used until there is someday paved walking paths inside that green space. So perhaps that's something that you might consider when you're looking at budgetary items.
Thank you, Ms. Now, that has been 5 minutes, so I would like to thank you for your presentation, go to council for any questions they may have from the information you presented. I'll just try to clarify from my own understanding, as you had alluded to, you asked sort of a question there, it wasn't the question stated about the public hearing, and my understanding is you've got the right information that this would not simply just happen at a council meeting. There's a process. Take words from Councillor Baker, who was unable to attend today, saying that, you know, this is a long-term plan. The plans do change. The city, you know, good, and I say to the good, they may change, and it will come back. If it does change, it will come back to the process that we've just discussed with my understanding, City Clerk.
That's correct. Info part 17 of the MPA, part 17 says there's a change to the MPP or a change to the plans. Statutory plans require a public hearing, so the process would have to occur again if we change the plans from what's presented today.
So I think this happens, this council has dealt with that over a number of different items. In their 4 years, the next council will have the same, and it may be the second council after that. From that perspective, but certainly there is a process that is going to be followed as long as I'm mayor, and the city administration will ensure that they follow the law, because that is the law we have. So to reassure you and as a resident and other residents that things just won't simply happen. Oh, I missed that council meeting and proof things have changed. So there will be a process that will be followed to ensure that the community as a whole has the opportunity to be engaged. So I hope that brings some clarity. Any other questions around this? Councillor.
Thank you, Worship. Thanks for your presentation. So, the majority of this is remaining green space in the plan, like you stated, except that northeast corner, which you said you understand the whole aspect of the financial and everything else that goes with it. What is it about that particular residential area that, from what you understand, I'm sure you can speak to the other people that have actually responded to that, saying that they were opposed to it as well. What is the most major concern that the residents of that area have with that chunk of residential in the community?
I think the biggest concern is I think originally, I think it's twofold actually. I think part of it is the unknown of what that actually involves, and I think it would have been helpful to know, and I'm sure you probably know what is intended to be there. You know, is it going to be a couple of 4,000 square feet houses, or is it going to be, you know, some townhouse, you know, a section of townhouse condos, or would it be something similar, you know, seniors housing similar to another Knox Manor? You know, I think some of those things, there are some people who get on board with, I think a lot of it is the unknown. And I think, you know, at one time we were talking about, there have been talks of the whole thing just becoming houses and losing all of that green space. There was talks of multi-story apartment buildings. There was talks of, and I think that's part of the opposition to something like that in any area, is when you're unsure how the landscape of your community is about to change. and no one can really give you any definite answers. I'm sure you don't even know right now what it would intend to be there. But I think that's part of it. And I think the other part of it is just what I said, you know, these older neighborhoods, well, any neighborhood outside the city, probably your own neighborhoods, they're not going to, if you take your park in your own community and build something on it, your playground is gone, your park is gone in that whole, in your community. And you don't get that back. And I think that's one of the things that I think for most of us, and we've talked about some of these things before, when you look at some of the cities that you and your family travel to, one of the things that makes a city and a community attractive to a family to live there or to move there is usually green space. If you leave a city that says that's a really beautiful city, nice place to visit, it's because it's green. And I think it's really important to acknowledge that and understand. And so for our community, that is a lot of it, the green space, the playground, the recreational nature of that parcel of land within our community. And so that was a lot of the opposition.
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak for what's going to happen there, you know, on behalf of everyone. You know, personally for me, I see that as a, you know, low, medium residential chunk of area because of what you spoke to, young families and everybody else that's in that area. So I don't foresee 4,000 square foot houses going there, you know, personally.
Right.
Where you would, as a buyer, if I was looking to buy a chunk of property in town and move a young family into having that be low, medium residential with that park space, I think actually adds value to that. So for me personally, I would see that as what's happening. But
I think it's also important to acknowledge that a lot of the opposition and a lot of the immediate reaction from our community came last fall from lack of communication. And we've talked about this over the past year, the fact that, again, the roadway that ends in the front of my house, we did not know that was even happening until I got a phone call at work one morning and the equipment was moving. And so I think that's that knee-jerk reaction from the community as well. I think there's been acknowledgement that there is some communication could have been done differently there that would have changed the whole course of this project. But we can't go back and do that. But I also think that that didn't necessarily help the reaction of the community. It was quite a shock, let's just say.
well, that's for me anyways. It's what we're here for. So thanks for your presentation today and bringing those things forward. You know, whether the end result is exactly what you want it to be remains to be seen. But bringing those things forward is what we're here for. So I appreciate all the feedback from everybody in the community around this. There's been great engagement around it since the beginning. So thanks for that.
I think there's definitely parts of the plan where we would all agree that we know that we've been heard and that our comments to the different departments have been noted and taken into account. We appreciate that.
Got a question for Councilor Torson?
Thank you, Your Worship. So before I get cut off, because it's more of an answer than it is a question, just from reading through the actual redevelopment plan, when it talks about infill, it very much talks about trying to have infill that fits with the character and the neighborhood. So when a planner is looking at an application for a development permit or when someone's subdividing into lots, it's very much to be taken in consideration when they're looking at what that potential development is going to be. So hopefully that's some reassurance that it's not going to be all one single residential that's like 10,000 square feet that doesn't fit with the neighborhood at all. It's meant within the policy to fit within what's already going on in that neighborhood.
Right. And I can say that the end plan that we're looking at today is quite different from some of the others that were originally proposed. So, and I think, as I said, when it comes down to this plan, although we do remain opposed to the residential, we are grateful that it has been limited to that one section of parcel.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
I will ask if there is anyone else that wishes to speak to this bylaw. I would like to thank all presenters for their comments. I now declare the public hearing for bylaw 26-2020
closed at 2:22 p.m. I declare the public hearing for bylaw number 27-2020, the Martin Browne Area Redevelopment Plan bylaw open at 2:23 p.m. I would ask the city clerk to confirm whether this public hearing has been advertised in accordance with the applicable legislation and to summarize the purpose of this hearing.
I confirm that this public hearing has been advertised and notice has been provided in accordance with the applicable legislation. This public hearing was advertised in Media Source on August 27th, September 3rd, and September 10th, 2020. The purpose of this public hearing is for bylaw number 27/2020, being a bylaw to establish an area redevelopment plan for the former Martin Browne School site.
I will now call upon anyone wishing to speak who is opposed to the proposed bylaw. I will now call upon anyone wishing to speak in favor of the proposed bylaw.
And we have the same letter, and then just to ensure that we follow the procedure, I will read that letter again. And it says, it's from Brent Harrison, and he says, Dear Mayor, Elders, and Council, I am writing in support of the draft bylaws 26-2020 and 27-2020. For draft bylaw 26-2020, and a change in the land use from institutional to parks, open space, and trails, and residential, it is my position that this neighborhood will benefit from more parkland and from more residential development. Therefore, I support draft bylaw 27-2020, the Martin Browne Area Redevelopment Plan. I'd like to applaud the inclusion of community garden plots in the plan, as well as increased safety features at pedestrian street crossings, which align with the city's focus on Vision Zero. I believe that there is value in considering medium residential zoning for properties to be created along 56th Avenue. This additional housing will allow more people to enjoy living in the vicinity of the park and its amenities. I believe that the strong neighborhoods are the ones incrementally changed over time, and my perspective is that these zoning changes and area redevelopment plan will allow for that kind of change to occur. Sincerely, Brent Harrison.
Thank you, City Clerk. I will now call upon anyone else wishing to speak who is affected by the proposed bylaw. I would like to thank all presenters for their comments, and I will now declare the public hearing for bylaw number 27-2020 closed at 2:26 p.m.
So, Mr. Mayor, I should just confirm that my comments would stand for 12.
They certainly would.
Thank you.
Moving on to agenda item 8.4. I'll let the city manager for 8.4.
Thank you, Worship. For item 8.4.1, Service Sports Center roof repairs contract award, I'll ask you all to come forward and present.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Bob.
Today is Service Sports Center roof repair contract award. The recommendation is that council approve the award of the Service Sports Center roofing replacement project, Flint, Canada of Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, in the amount of $403,300, excluding GST, plus a 15% contingency of $60,000, $495, including GST again, to be allocated from 2020 capital budget, project number 2073303. In addition, the mayor and the city clerk be authorized to sign and seal all necessary documents. The Service Sports Center existing rubber membrane roof has a history of recurring issues, including leaks into the facility, protect the facility, and ensure its longevity. Administration is recommending the roof to be replaced. Some background, the Service Sports Center is obviously a complex facility built in about 2006. The facility features 2.6 ice arenas, 2 field houses, a fitness center with dance studios, an outdoor skate park, and outdoor ski skating mobile. SSC's flat roof membrane for the fitness center and other areas of the facility has had reoccurring issues with the rubber membrane roof resulting in ongoing water leaks within the facility. Furthermore, during the 2020 spring thaw, the facility experienced additional water leaks. The original Carlisle roofing product was installed in 2006 on the then newly built facility. Administration conducted a review of the SSC's roof's warranty and city insurance policy, and it has been determined that these are not available avenues for the city to pursue to complete the necessary repairs. In order to protect and maintain the life expectancy of the building, roof repairs are required. Administration tendered for a prime consultant in May to ensure that the roof is repaired correctly, with our engineering being the successful proponent. It was determined that the repairs to this SSC roof system will require removal and disposal of the existing roof system, engineering storm collars, and a completely new flat roof system. The city issued a request for tender for the necessary repairs on July 29th. The tender period closed on August 13th. 10 bids were received and reviewed for correctness. The total tender amounts, excluding GST, are summarized in the table below. I won't read each one, but it's right there for you. Goes from $403,000 and change to $610,000. Based on the lowest tender submission, administration recommends that council approve the award for the Servus Sports Center roof repair. Flynn Canada repairs Servus are scheduled to be completed the week of November 20th, weather dependent. Options: the council approve the award of Servus Sports Center roof replacement project to Flynn Canada in the amount of $403,300, excluding GST, plus a 15% contingency, $60,495, excluding GST, to be allocated from the 2020 capital budget. Project number 2073303. In addition, that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to sign and seal all necessary documents. Option 2, the council not approve the contract award. And option 3, that council request additional information to the item be brought for future regular council meetings. Alignment with strategic plan, sustainable fiscal strategy. The Servus Sports Center is a vital part of our community, and having the correct rubber membrane roof will add the used building longevity of the facility. Once again, we have looked at the current roofing warranty and alternate avenues to occur. This new roofing does come with a 15-year warranty. Other than that, the budget, the roof replacement project come out of the project number I've already identified. Funding source, so this was originally budgeted for $575,000. Our engineering, due to consulting cost, is just under $17,000. The tender amount, $403,300. Construction contingency is $6,495, which leaves us with $463,795 for the entire project, and the remaining budget is just under $100,000. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
I think that's what's on mind to start with. We'll go around Councilor Batch.
Thanks, Joel. I guess a couple of things. I know that in prior life, with our asset management and preventive maintenance program, we looked at roofs to last 25 years. And that was kind of a cycle where we looked at replacing them fully, and we're kind of at that place where we're doing that now on a building where the roof is, for all intents and purposes, 14 years of age. And I'm just wondering how the warranty on the new one's 15, this one is not getting there at 14 or 13 because we had other issues earlier, and I'm just trying to wrap my head around all that.
Yeah, so what we've worked on, and I've asked a similar question, and then I guess 15-year warranty on roofs is kind of what most of them had given us anyway, so it's kind of, I guess that's become a new protocol, I'm not sure.
So there was no 15-year warranty on the original one?
Oh, the original one did have some warranty. I'm sorry, I thought you were asking me.
Oh, yeah, so we're at 14 years now, and you're saying we can't apply any warranty based on your inquiries at this point, so.
Yeah, I guess there's been, over the time, we've gone through warranty a few times this couple of years, and they keep patching it, but the problem keeps happening and happening, and we can't replace the entire roof under the warranty we have.
So if they would repair it for one more year to get past the 15 years, but it's reached a point where it's no longer repairable, is what I'm gathering.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. So we've done a lot of investigation into the original construction of the roof. the company that installed the warranty process. We seek legal advice and review. We've had multiple different audits, I'll call them, of the existing roof, and yes, it's beyond our ability to continue to patch. We have been for multiple years continuing to patch, and we continue to have deterioration based on some of our other buildings and what we're seeing and some past history. We don't want to let this one fester any further. Therefore, it was budgeted back in the 2020 capital budget when that was brought forward. And again, we've taken quite a bit of time to make sure we've gone through all our checks and balances from an administration perspective to make sure that there aren't any other options to help burden some of that cost. We are where we are. We need to move forward, and from an administration perspective, the roof needs to be replaced. It's more than just patching a few things. The way the roof was put in, the way some of the overlaps were done, there's bigger concerns there than just a few leaks. So I'll leave that with you.
So in that sense, when you look at it, we approved our budget for 2020 and 2019. So really, this roof had only had 13 years of life at that point as well.
Yeah, I believe 24 or 2004, 2005-ish is when the facility was built. So yeah, we're in that, 13, excuse me, 13, 14, 15 years. No, the exact installation date.
I don't want to drill down too deep. Is it a design issue or a contract issue?
Based on everything, not if I'm correct here, Doug, you've been involved too, but it was an installation concern.
And there's no legal recourse.
So we've exhausted looking at warranty, and because warranty wasn't paid at the time that the incidents were occurring and outside the claim date, we can't retroactively claim the warranty. We have spoken with our insurance companies at length because of the way it sometimes rolled out. It's not a claimable expense, and we have had discussions with legal, but none of these have been, should I say, positive discussions in our.
So I just did another question if I could. So what are we doing different now to make sure we're not back here in 13 years?
So we had Bar Engineering do a design to ensure that the contractor that's coming in to do the work has a design to follow off of that is standard for this type of flat roof, ensuring that the proper installation of this is going to be a long-lasting 20 to 25-year lifespan of the roof. So a little bit of engineering to help support us through the process of that installation to ensure that the product being installed is installed properly and will last.
Yeah, because I'm not offended by the cost. I mean, been involved in roof work where it's $800,000 to do a building probably that size as opposed to this cost. But it's just, I guess I want to make sure we're not in the same spot.
Yeah, I mean, some of the comments that I heard, now, again, Joel and Doug, correct me if I'm wrong, the way the overlapping and the, what do they call those? Were installed was not typical installation. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, the new College Park School, it wasn't installed properly. The heights were out and thickness was out. Yeah, it was.
We want to make sure we're taking care of the issue before we have another facility that we're in with bigger issues that we need to deal with versus coming in and replace the roof when it needs to be done.
And the warranty papers will be solid, intact, and
So will.
perfect.
Any other questions or comments? Councilor Buckingham?
Thanks, Your Worship. Thanks, Joel, Don, everybody, for all your work on this. As much as I don't want to do a new roof on a building that's 13 or 14 years old now, it is the right thing to do. And we've been going through a bunch of facility feasibility studies in the last couple of years, and leaving stuff like this is what probably leads us to where we're at in a few other facilities now. So, being proactive in this, I think, is the only way to go. So I actually appreciate all the looking into this and dealing with it now as opposed to trying to continue to push it off. We can't. So I think it's the right move and a good decision, and thanks to everybody for all the work you guys do.
Councillor Craig.
Yeah, there's no question that it needs to be taken care of, and I've just been on another roofing project, and this is a very good price. It seems very reasonable, but yeah, those flat roofs are always are very difficult. Many people have lots of problems with them. They just don't seem to be installed properly. I don't know. I think there's got to be a better way. The one question I have is the material the same? The EPDM, is that going to be the same material being used on the roof?
It's a very good question. I believe it is. It's the same rubber type of PPM.
Just wondering, with all the new high tech and new products out there, if there was something bigger and better and more durable. But that was just my
I
question.
don't have a product like yours.
Yeah.
There could be some changes, but
Yeah,
that's
okay.
my understanding.
Okay.
They'd be following whatever recommendation was from our consulting engineer. They would have recommended the type of material in there. So. And I want to assure you, like, administration wouldn't have brought this forward if we didn't feel it was important to move forward on, and or there were other avenues for us to go down.
Yeah, a lot of these concerns were brought forward during our budget consultation when the budget was presented, and so we've had some time to make sure we do our homework and do that, and I'm confident our team's done that, and we've exhausted our avenues before getting to this stage. So,
Good job.
I do appreciate that very much as well. And it's been talked about a new flat roof system. So I know without re-engineering the building, it can always concern me with the flat roof. But hopefully, looking at the contractors that bid and we are proposing to award the contractors, that is their business. Swim Canada has been in business a long time. Several of those names are very common in the roofing industry, commercial and industrial roofing industry, so that's good. And if Mars looked at it, I guess they'd come back to us with a different design for the roof, I would hope. I appreciate the 15-year warranty as well, and I think that's, as it was said around the council table, I think it's ensuring that when you leave us for whatever, which we hope you don't, or Dawn, or the city manager, or Pete in maintenance, that information does make sure it gets transferred, because that's the critical part. The one question I have, that does concern me a little bit, but putting a new roof on, we are looking at the week of November 20th for completion. Are we starting as soon as possible to try and get it done? Because weather is a factor, and if we expect to get half a job, my concern is based on my limited experience in construction, dealing with certain materials, we could run into challenges. Again, I'd love to Council Baker here because he's put on more roofs, oversaw more roofs than we can shake a stick. But that is my concern, is how soon will they be able to start, and can we, because if the weather changes, there's issues. And I'll leave it to you folks to answer.
Yeah, I don't have a starting date on me. I know what we did was make sure that they could be done at the same time. It's actually been updated. It's actually November 15th. It's only 5 days difference, so it's not a huge thing, but it is November 15th. So everybody was going into that, and we worked with our engineering, and they worked through their roofing systems to make sure that we believe that we could get it done by November 15th. So that's why that date occurred. If we didn't think that was going to be done, that date would have been moved.
Well, you'll have mine if this passes. I'll sign it as soon as you get the contract. Let's get it to work, because I believe weather is going to be there. Is that factor that always concerns me when dealing with the roof?
I think if we get into an issue where we feel that's just not achievable, then we'll make the decision to put that off until spring.
And I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I exactly understand, because I think that is important. Because as we've talked about why we need to maintain the roof. We have to maintain the building integrity. But at the end of the day, if there's any question about warranty, and having you folks gone through that legal side on the first one, let's make sure we've covered ourselves and wait to Sunday to ensure that we do it that way. Councilor Rowe, do you have a comment?
No, that's good. I already answered. Thank you.
I'll ask one more time. Any other questions or comments? Not seeing any. I will look for direction from council on 8.4.3, Service Sports Center roof repair contract award. Council Dustin.
Motion to council approve the award of the Service Sports Center roof replacement project to Flint Canada, Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, in the amount of $103,300, excluding GST, plus a 15% contingency of $60,495, excluding GST, to be allocated from the 2020 capital budget project number 2073303. In addition, that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign and seal all necessary documents.
Thank you, Councilor, for a second. Councilor Buckingham. Any further discussion? Not seeing any, I'll call for the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Joel. Good luck with it.
Thanks.
I'll just let Councilor Torgerson rejoin us. Moving on to agenda item number 9, bylaws. City Manager.
Thank you, Your Worship. For 9.1, bylaw number 26-2020, Martin Browne, Municipal Development Plan. I'll ask Anthony Andre to come forward from there.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council.
Good afternoon, Anthony.
The recommendation is that Council grant second and third reading to bylaw number 26-2020, the bylaw to amend approximately 1.8 hectares of the Martin Browne site from institutional to residential and parks, open space, and trails on map 2, future land use concept of the Municipal Development Plan, number 01-2013. In order to facilitate the redevelopment of the former Martin Browne school site, an amendment must be made to the MVP to align with the general land uses in the ARP. Land Division, along with associated engineering, prepared the draft ARP to guide the future redevelopment of the former Martin Browne school site and surrounding park space. During the June 15, 2020 GPC meeting, administration provided information regarding the Martin Browne ARP and MVP amendment. A referral period soliciting comment from internal and external agencies, as well as the public, took place between May 19th and June 9th, 2020. Council granted first reading to the bylaw during the regular council meeting on August 17th, 2020, and no changes have been made since presented. Bylaw number 26-2020 and bylaw number 27-2020 must be approved concurrently. Further, a public hearing for the bylaw number 26-2020 occurred during September 14th, not 21st, as mentioned in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. Any questions or comments? We went through a series of public hearings, or public open houses, and discussion prior to COVID. There's been a lot of discussion. There's some comments noted. We've had presentations both for and against again today, talking about how we move forward with the Martin Browne site. And it's certainly an area that is important to the residents, as it is to all residents in the city, but certainly those neighbors adjacent to it. I certainly appreciate the comments from both sides that additional parks is always a warranted item in our city. And I think this master plan, which it is a master plan, helps address some future movement and starts the process, because as Anthony just indicated, you can't do anything, it just sits vacant. And I don't think that's what the residents want, nor anyone else in the city. To move forward with whatever plan we move forward with, we need to lay something out. And I appreciate the work that's been done by the consultant, our planning team, administration, and appreciate the council sitting in on those various open houses and workshops with people, because we've had an opportunity to hear from residents, neighbors, and residents of the entire community, which also have a voice. Thank you. Councilor Torgerson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, so just looking at the plan and even trying to remember back to some of those open houses back in December, I know I had the pleasure of being at the one at the Servus Sports Center and hearing from people. It seems like to me the plan that we ended up getting very much is in line with a lot of what we were hearing at those meetings. And I think that overall the plan that does exist deals with, kind of giving something nice to have in that neighborhood that everyone who lives in that neighborhood can be proud of down the road, understanding that it's a long-term plan and some of the things are going to take a little while, but at least it maps out some potential, you know, upgrades and different bits of infrastructure that can be done through budgets over the years. So I think that overall that it's a solid plan, and I think it addresses all the needs for that area. I only have one question just about the process, and that is, how much did COVID or how much did anything else kind of play a part in kind of the timeline of when we maybe initially planned to have this come to council versus when it actually did come to council? And the reason I ask that is just because some of the feedback we heard today was kind of around, we had these concerns, but we didn't know they were being dealt with. But I think under normal circumstances with this plan going through kind of a more normal cycle of beginning to end, I think some of these people would have known and understood that their comments make their way into this, and then there potentially would be a draft plan, you know, sooner than later that could have been viewed. But just because of the way things work, it seems like it maybe dragged on a little longer for them. So when was it initially kind of planned to come to council?
I'm not entirely sure of the exact date that we had initially planned or hoped for. I do know that COVID did play a role in delaying it several months. Starting in March, a lot of our plans were put on hold, particularly plans such as this that required some sort of public engagement. We weren't entirely sure what we would be allowed to do to meet our legislative requirements. So a little bit of caution was taken, and the process was certainly slowed by a number of months because of that.
Okay. And to be honest with you, I'm totally fine with that under the circumstances. I still think that, you know, from what I heard, we did everything we needed to do from the legislative requirement, just making sure that we cross all the T's and dot all the I's. And it's unfortunate that there are some out there who feel as though they didn't get that timely feedback, and I think part of that would have just been because the plan just took a lot longer to actually throw together with all the comments we did receive. So I don't think that's pointing fingers at anyone. It's more unfortunate circumstance with COVID being a thing. One of the many things that it's done.
Yeah, I would suggest probably there was 3 or 4 projects similar to this that were affected by COVID, just from whether it's public hearings or public engagement. Those processes were put on hold since March, and so as you see today, there's a couple of them on the agenda and a couple of others that were affected in that matter. So Anthony's right in his statement in terms of delaying things.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, I just don't want to discount any of the efforts that went into it by saying that. I think that, I know we've heard a lot about it over the entire course, and that there's been conversations of when can we do a public hearing type of thing, and all those things were taken into consideration to get us to this point. So I don't want to discount the hard work that went into it. So thank you to Anthony and the rest of the team.
Councillor Monroe.
Yeah, just a couple comments. Thank you to the residents that were able to come today and speak to us, as well as those that submitted a submission. But in terms of municipal reserve lands, is there a percentage of this that was municipal reserve? Because one of our presenters today mentioned municipal reserve, and I just wanted some clarification on that.
Sure. So all of the lands that are part of the Kingdom Park are municipal reserve.
Right.
The lands that were part of the Martin Browne school site, which is 40 to 50% of the lands, are not. So they don't actually fall into that public hearing portion that was mentioned earlier, requiring a public hearing to sell those lands. However, a land use bylaw amendment will still need to occur when these lands are subdivided. So that same process will take place regardless.
Perfect. I didn't think that any of this Martin Browne area had been municipal reserve, but just because it was mentioned, I just wanted to have that clarification on it before our decision's made. So thank you very much.
Any further discussion or questions for Anthony?
Thanks, Rich. I just want to make a comment about this whole process because I think the city making whatever transactions they did with the supervision to acquire this property has really put us in a position where there's all kinds of opportunity for that community to rejuvenate and really be enhanced. And I think as you noted, I mean, it's taken a while to get where we're at, and it hasn't been without bumps and hiccups and all those other pieces. And but I think it's important to look at the opportunity that exists within that property, both in terms of that green space, the park space, renewal for the arena, the pool. I mean, there's so much going on in that piece that I hope we don't lose sight of that and be critical of it because perhaps there are bumps in the road. I just think that, you know, where we're at is really important to highlight sort of the potential that exists as part of this journey.
Any further discussion? Not seeing any. I will look for direction on 9.1, bylaw number 26-2020, Martin Browne Municipal Development Plan Amendment. Discussion.
Move that council grant second reading of bylaw number 26-2020, a bylaw to amend approximately 1.98 hectares, 4.9 acres of the Martin Browne site within the Southwest Quarter Section 1 Township 50 Range 01 west of the 4th Meridian from institutional to residential parks, open space and trails on map 2, future land use concept of the municipal development plan number 01-2013.
Thank you. Seconder, Councilor Monroe. Any further discussion before I call for the question? Not seeing any. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. For direction on item number 3.
Move that council grant third and final reading to bylaw number 26-2020, a bylaw to amend approximately 1.98 hectares, 4.8 acres of the Martin Browne site within the Southwest Quarter Section 1 Township 50, Range 1 west of the 4th Meridian from institutional, residential, and parks, open space and trails on map 2, future land concept with municipal development plan number 01-2013.
Secretary, Councilor Torson. Any further discussion before I call for the question? Not seeing any. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Moving on to 9.3. To the city manager.
The recommendation is the council grant second and third reading to bylaw number 27-2020, being the Martin Browne Area Redevelopment Plan bylaw. The purpose of the proposed ARP is to provide clarity regarding the future land use of the former Martin Browne school site and Kincaid Park. Land Division, along with Associated Engineering, prepared the draft ARP for the area comprised of approximately 4.1 hectares, which is located within the established residential neighborhood of West Leominster. The ARP outlines 2 phases, identifying future land uses for the subject lands and policies to guide redevelopment. Phase 1 of the plan includes upgrades to the existing park area, including sidewalk upgrades and the expansion of the Kincaid playground. Many of the existing features are retained. Phase 2 identifies further park enhancements, such as a new children's spray park, outdoor rink/basketball court, and an internal trail network, to name a few. A residential development component is also included in this phase, located in the northeastern portion of the plan, and is intended to assist in the financing of the other improvements. The development of the ARP, including many public engagement components, utilizing the city's website and social media pages, a feature at the Your Voice event in September of 2019, media releases in local news sources, and included over 3,000 mail-outs, as well as 3 public workshops held September 10th, 11th, and 12th in 2019. Upon completion of the draft ARP, our referral process commenced to solicit additional public and stakeholder feedback, which ended June 9th, 2020, which further refined the concept plans and policies. A virtual engagement event held between August 31st and September 11th was utilized to finalize the project and provide an overview to the general public prior to the public hearing. Feedback from this event helped to prioritize features of the plan, as well as allow the public to comment on the draft ARP. Similar to earlier public engagement, the public supported many of the upgrades to the recreational facilities and internal trail network, but a lack of support for the residential component is evident, with 13 of the 26 participants expressing concern. The plan acknowledges the limited open space within the neighborhood and includes policies to mitigate concerns and allow future development to complement the existing built form and limits development to low and medium density. As the former school site area remains owned as public service, a land use bylaw amendment will be required prior to any form of residential development taking place, prompting further public engagement. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. Questions or comments? Not seeing any. I know we discussed it very thoroughly for last bylaw, and we've had the public hearings today. I think that certainly there's, the residents have indicated their thoughts, and other residents in the city have indicated thoughts. We've had a good mix over this time. I think that, as it was discussed, the plan that's being proposed is a start of direction. And I think that, as we all know, that things do change, and they can change after a plan's laid out, but I think we don't start somewhere if we don't have a plan. We talked about this. Appreciate the work that again done by administration or contractor, giving the charge on this to get public input and set some direction, because I've had a chance to visit much larger cities, certainly in the U.S. and the East, and if you don't plan properly, we know what happens in places like Detroit, Chicago, and things like that. And I know we're not even close to those sizes, but in the same token, having issues within a neighborhood easily happen if we're not on top of things. So thank you for the work that's done. Any other comments before I ask for direction? Not seeing any, I will look for direction from council on bylaw number 27-2020, the Martin Browne Area Redevelopment Plan bylaw.
All right, move that council grant second reading to bylaw number 27-2020, the Martin Browne Area Redevelopment Plan bylaw.
Seconder, Councilor Thorson. Any further discussion? Not seeing any, I'll call for the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Councilor Felicia.
Move that council grant third and final reading to bylaw number 27-2020, the Martin Browne Area Redevelopment Plan bylaw.
Seconder, Councilor Buckingham. Thank you very much. Any further discussion? Not seeing any, I'll call for the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. I won't go too far into it. I think you're on the agenda out here for a little bit.
Your worship.
Moving on to 9.3.
Worship, may I ask a question before we carry on to 9.3?
Certainly.
In reviewing the agenda package last week, I didn't find anything, but I wanted to just ask the question. In granting first readings to these bylaws, 9.3 and 9.4 in the agenda, does that lock us into any kind of agreement with our neighboring municipality to the northeast as we move forward with these things on the edge of their boundaries?
No, absolutely not. The first reading is the first reading to start the process going forward. Until third and final reading is done, it's not legislative action. It's just council then can change between the first and second reading, or they can make amendments, or they can choose not to pass the bylaws.
Yeah, I was just wondering if there was something within it. I didn't, like I say, I didn't find anything in there that I should declare for this one, if it had anything to do with our neighboring municipality or not. I just wanted to be 100% clear.
Whether you declare or not would be your decision. However, this does not lock us into any specific rule piece until the final readings are complete.
I think I was okay too. I just wanted to make sure. So appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. On to 9.3, City Manager, through Planner, Anthony.
The recommendation is a council grant first reading to bylaw number 32-2020, being the Northeast Area Structure Plan bylaw, and the council established a public hearing to be held during the regular council meeting October 5th, 2020 at 2 p.m. In order to establish a long-term vision for the development and use of lands located within the northeast portion of the city, an area structure plan must be adopted in accordance with the provisions of the MGA. The drafting of the Northeast Area Structure Plan was initiated by Land Division with the intention of guiding the future development of approximately 7 quarter sections in the northeast portion of the city. The ASP provides general information outlining future land uses, infrastructure servicing, transportation, and the potential phasing of development. The draft ASP represents the development of a complete community and is an example of a mixed-use neighborhood which fosters many benefits, including an improved sense of place, a high number of housing options, and an overall high quality of life as supported by Section 4.4 of the NDP. It is anticipated the ASP will accommodate a population of approximately 6,500 people, along with 3,150 jobs. The existing topography of the subject lands were also a major consideration in the design of both the development concept and stormwater management system. The result is an economical and ecologically friendly development which preserves potentially sensitive wetlands and encourages the reconstruction of native prairies, which will be used as open green space. The draft ASP complies with applicable provincial regulations, municipal policies, and infrastructure master plans. Public engagement played a strong role in the drafting of the document, beginning with stakeholder workshops held on March 27th and 28th, 2019, and a public open house which took place June 20th, 2019. An initial internal referral was distributed in October 2019, which helped shape the ASP's development. A final referral period has commenced, which will inform internal and external agencies and the general public of the draft ASP. All future development within the Northeast ASP subject lands will be required to comply with the approved ASP MD. Amendments to these documents will be required should development be proposed which is non-compliant. This bylaw must be approved in conjunction with the approval of bylaw number 33-2020, Northeast Area Structure Plan, MVP amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. Any questions or comments? Councillor.
Thank you, Your Worship. So when going through this one of the things I found was that, generally these items I find that you get a handful of things that are way above your head. This area structure plan, I think, took it up about 10 notches because I'm now an expert on the species and different grasses and birds and different things like that, which in a way, because there is what we'll call wetlands type of areas within there, I guess is necessary if we're trying to meet all the regulations of the different government agencies. But I just found that, wow, there was a lot of information in this. So even if it was, that long ago that those open houses and everything were happening for this one, there is a lot in this document. And a lot of things that I think when we normally see an area structure plan, we normally don't see that kind of information. Unless I'm wrong and I just glazed over it the other times, but I definitely don't recall seeing so much scientific information like that. But, in either case, I think it's, big picture, good to have a plan moving forward for that area because the reality is the city will grow. It will continue to grow. This is a nice area where there's an opportunity to do something with it, whereas in the past it was, we'll say, more or less overlooked area within the city's boundary. And it's given us even some difficulties as neighboring municipalities to the east have wanted to develop things, and we have had these challenges with not having a proper area structure plan in the area, and we haven't been able to say whether the use fits with some of the things we're planning on doing, and that's been a challenge to have those conversations too. But I just think at the end of the day, it's good to have something to build off of and to hopefully have some developers look at it and say, you know what, I see something there. There's a lot of nice green space and a lot we can do with that area that might make it a really attractive place to live or a really good place to have some kind of business. And I think that there's actually a lot going on and a lot better uses of that area than we've had up to this point. And I think that a lot of people, or a lot of different companies can see a lot of value in that area. Thank you.
Councillor.
Just a quick question, because one of the things that I noticed not in there was any reference to airport. So in section 4.3, which talked about transportation connectivity, it had, Highway 17, 16, CPCN, and I know that, here we are involved in Aerotropolis and the airport being a really important part of our community. Wasn't noted in the report, and I'm not sure whether that was just an oversight, whatever it is, but and even in the economic development section and the very end in appendices, I was looking forward to see something in there. So I'm not sure if that's an oversight or whether that's how relevant it is to, but I like the green spaces that are mentioned in reference them as well. I guess in terms of drilling down, I was looking for, and perhaps that's the developer's role in all of this, is how are those green spaces connected? You have 40th, which Avenue sort of splits it, and are there going to be bike trails? But maybe that's drilling down too much, I guess, but I just see that the opportunity for families in that area to be able to move around and do stuff as opposed to, not having anything to do. I mean, there's a potential school site in there, there's green space, so obviously they've drilled down to that level, but not beyond that. So it's kind of, I kept looking for some of those other pieces, but I don't think it takes away from, as Councilor Torson has pointed out, the depth of the top topography, the plants, the wildlife, and all the other pieces. I mean, when you do this, I'm impressed that, that amount of information was required to do the full, plan for that area itself. I think it would be an asset to the city once it's developed. And I may have missed it in there, but did they talk about what the potential population would be residentially in that area there?
Yeah, approximately 6,500.
65.
Anthony, Councillor Buckingham kind of alluded to the external agencies before we started the presentation. Have we been in consultation with our neighboring municipalities in the steps so far?
Yeah, throughout the process, they've been invited to various public stakeholder engagement events that we've held. They were also included on the external referral process. And they even provided us with the landowner information within the yard as well, so that we could send information to them.
Terrific. So we've coordinated our efforts.
Absolutely.
Yeah, as well. Terrific. The second one that I wanted to ask about, we have city development adjacent to a portion that may be the golf course and the cemetery. Is that been considered for future expansion, maybe the cemetery, maybe more than the golf course? And how would that affect this plan if that is going to happen? If it needs to be, and I'm not sure about the cemetery.
Yeah, we do have opportunities for the cemetery expansion within here, as well as the green space to the west of that. It has also been identified as future recreational expansion.
Okay, so that's at public lands, parks, trails, and open spaces, the cemetery would fall under that designation. Okay, great, thank you. That answers my questions. Is there any other comments? Not seeing any, I'll look for direction on 9.3, the bylaw number 32-2020, the Northeast Area Structure Plan. Councilor Fagan.
That council grant first reading to bylaw number 32-2020 Northeast Area Structure Plan bylaw, and that council established a public hearing to be held during the regular meeting on October 5th, 2020 at 2 p.m.
Seconder. Councilor Monroe, thank you very much. Any further discussion before I call for the question? Not seeing any, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much. Moving on to 9.4, city manager through the Anthony.
Recommendation is that council grant first reading to bylaw number 33/2020, being a bylaw to amend map 2 future land use concept of the municipal development plan as per Schedule A, and the council established a public hearing to be held during the regular council meeting on October 5th, 2020 at 2 p.m. Planning for the northeast area of the city was initiated by the city's land division to provide guidance and predictability for future development. Along with the draft ASP, an application to amend the MDP was submitted to align map 2, the future land use map concept, with the land uses within the ASP. The draft ASP represents the development of community with opportunities for the development of various forms of housing types and densities, neighborhood level retail and commercial uses, as well as industrial employment areas. Of the approximate 509 hectares of land included in the draft plan, mainly comprised of farmland, identified as urban expansion in the MDP. It is proposed that approximately 395 hectares be amended to commercial, parks, trails, and open space, residential, and industrial within map 2. The remainder of the lands within the plan area, including established highway, commercial, industrial development, and the water treatment plant, comply with the existing MDP, and draft ASP and therefore do not require redesignation. Through amending future land uses within the MVP, administration will ensure that future development complies with the overall intent of the ASP and MVP. Prior to development occurring, map amendments to the land use bylaw will be required to ensure consistency with the MVP and ASP once approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anthony. Questions or comments? Councilor Torson.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the areas that we're changing from urban expansion that are farm areas to residential or commercial, let's say there's hypothetically, not hypothetically, is there anything on any of those properties other than farmland right now?
There is several developments. There's, I believe, 2 farmhouses. There's also a paintball range. For the most part, I think that that's all that's within the future expansion areas.
Okay, so then my question would be then, if, let's say some of this is long-term thinking. Let's say one of those development wants to put up a shop or something like that. Can they still get development permits using that existing use that they have right now? Or they run into issues as far as whether they can develop any further at this point because of the changes that we're making to change it to commercial or whatever from its agricultural use right now?
Sure, that's a question that's come up during the referral period from some of the landowners. The answer is yes, this isn't going to prevent them from continuing the use of their property or developing within that current use until such time as the land use bylaw will be amended. That being said, it does provide a little bit of predictability and certainty as to what the land will be used for 20, 30 years from now when this is developed.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, so to be clear, it's the change in use step that would have to happen prior to you running into any issues like that, right?
Correct. And we've also included some language in this document that existing development is said to comply with the ASP so that we don't run into challenges like that as well.
Thank you.
Anthony, there's some existing oil development in this area. So is this going to allow any further oil development or exploration work in the city boundaries?
That's a very good question. I might actually have to get a response on that from our consultant. I'm not super familiar about the process of developing oil wells. So.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, because I know that certainly we know the activity levels where they are, but there are existing wells and they may not even be producing, I'm not sure. So that would be something just to keep in mind. I'm sure that was taken into account when we did the overall, so they were identified somewhere in the plan.
Yes.
Just from that perspective. So that we send a clear indication to both the landowner and potential exploration companies that may be considering doing some work within the city limits. I'm not sure. We've never had that problem. We've seen wells abandoned, but we haven't had exploration. It's something we should be well aware of just in case.
Sure. I rather suspect that within the areas that are zoned for agricultural, that it won't be a problem, but I'll get a firm answer.
Certainly appreciate that. Any other questions or comments? Not seeing any. I'll look for direction from council on 9.4 bylaw number 33-2020, the Northeast Area Structure Plan Municipal Development Plan Amendment.
Hold on, I'll get there.
Okay.
Part of this is, part of this meeting.
Frozen. There you
All right.
go. Councilor Torres.
32, 2020, oh, 33. Sorry, guys.
Okay.
I should have said that. Yep. All right, I move that council grant first reading to bylaw number 33-2020 being a bylaw to amend map 2, future land use concept of the municipal development plan as per Schedule A, and that council establish a public hearing to be held during the regular council meeting on October 5th, 2020 at 2 p.m.
Thank you, Councilor. Seconder? Councilor Monroe. Thank you very much. Any further discussion? Not seeing any, I'll call for the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much, Anthony.
Thank you.
Busy day today. Moving on to item number 10, Mayor and Council reports. I have no report attached at this time. I will be reporting to Council in the near future. A few things on the agenda, but nothing too major. It was actually one or two public events, which was nice to be invited to. Trophies last night to, I'll call a bi-provincial cricket tournament that was held, which was nice to see. We had teams from Edmonton, Saskatoon, beat in Lloydminster, and carry a cricket tournament on Sunday. And I know there's been a few odds and ends around the city. So I'm sure hoping things pick up steadily more in events. Been pretty quiet. Anything from any of the councilors wish to report at this time? Not seeing any, I will move to, is there any other matters that this council needs to deal with at this time? Not knowing any, I will look for inquiries from the media.
Thank you, Your Worship. Today we have a request for Councillor Patrick and yourself, Mayor Roberts.
Thank you very much. I will look for a motion to go.
Motion to recess.
Motion to recess, seconded by Councilor Fagin. Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much, everyone.